Ho ho, here we go. I think we're going. Happy Friday night. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to cocktail time this Friday night. It is good to see you all. I was struggling with technology again. Happy Friday. It is great to see you. I am in sweat clothes and a stained t-shirt with a peach cider, I think this is. So tonight I am actually going to say cheers, my dears. Let's have some fun. I am ready for some fun. Happy Friday, everybody. Good, good, good. Yes. Okay. So he's driving me crazy tonight. By he, I mean this one. There's others. He comes to say, happy Friday night. Oh, happy Friday night. I'm Buttons. Happy Friday night. Happy cocktail night. I want to smell your breath and I want to smell the drink. Do you have any food up here? He's such a cutie. He says, happy Friday night, Melissa. Great to see you. Hello. It's rainy there, but you are working on projects and looking forward to our time together. Me too. I was doing the same thing. I was working on It's All Gravy in there. I was adding a ton of paisley to the pattern, and I have a video that I was waiting for it to load a minute ago. Was not quite there yet. So as soon as the show is over, I will put up the next video in the It's All Gravy sequence, and it is starting to fill in the background by cutting up paisley. And we've seen this before. I'm doing it rather strategically because I kind of expect to run out of the background fabric. So that'll make another video subject. Mom, great to see you. Happy cocktail night from chilly Granby, Connecticut. Nice to settle in. Oh, it is after a busy day. Oh, yeah. Kaz, great to see you. Oh, you're still in Tokyo. You're still in Tokyo. Good morning to you. And jet lag is done. You are hitting the ground running. You are having some good times. You got your hair done. It looks beautiful. Hello to your sweet mom. Oh, it sounds like so much fun. Cheryl, cheers, my dears, on a rainy night. No shoveling. Yeah. Sending any snow thoughts to Connecticut. Do you have snow on the Cape? Holy moly's. I saw that in Western Connecticut. There might be snow tonight. Holy mackerel, Mom, that could be you, actually. I didn't even realize you're as far west as you could be. You're the last town before the border. Linda, great to see you. Cheers, my dears, from cold snow. Is it snowy in New Jersey? Oh, my gosh. It's already snowing in November. It hasn't lately. Has it snowed quite this early? Time for some hot cocoa. That sounds fantastic. Good to see you, Linda. Melanie, great to see you. Happy Friday from cool, wet Washington State. Oh man, I feel like we are gives me a zip of energy and happiness in a fairly rough day. Thinking about the weather changing and us heading into winter together, all of the projects that we have in front of us. I'm excited. Judy, great to see you. Cheers to little Buttons too. He is a good boy. Is he a good boy? I guess he's a good boy. He's usually a good boy. What is he doing now? What are you doing, Buttons? Oh boy, he's under the table looking for something. Dear, oh dear. All right, Kaz, you will be back after Thanksgiving Day. All right, so you still have tons of time. Enjoy that vacation. That sounds like such fun. Sharon, great to see you. Just received your dies for cutting noodles. Can cut while I watch. Isn't that great? Isn't that great to get something done while you're listening? It's such a good scenario, doing two things at once. It's so, this craft is so good for that. I was watching a Hallmark movie, and I really haven't watched a lot lately because I feel like they're not as good as they once were. But I joined this Hallmark Christmas movies Facebook page. And, I've been I'm exiting a lot of Facebook stuff lately. But on this particular page, everybody is so nice. And everyone says, I have no food, honey. I have no food. Everyone is so nice and saying what their favorite movies are that are out right now. So it made me want to get on the channel and see what's up with you. He needy. Oh, he's so needy tonight.
Oh, I just wanted to get on the camera and see everybody.
He is so cute. He's so cute. But it is fun. I'm watching a novel something, a novel Christmas, a novel something, and it was really cute. And I was working on hooking It's All Gravy at the same time, which is absolutely like optimum use of time because I'm watching something that I've been wanting to watch that makes me feel festive. and working on my project at the same time. There's not a lot of crafts I have found over the years where you don't need to concentrate to the extent where you could really enjoy watching something else. I mean, it really is a gift, isn't it? Even listening to book cassettes, I have to say, I was listening to some mysteries in the last couple of days. I think Jay Gill. I downloaded some Jay Gill. They're kind of like 1920s era country house mysteries set in England, and very, very good. But I keep rewinding them because I feel like, what did the colonel say? Was that the colonel or was that the captain? That kind of thing. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to squander it because some of them come free with Audible. But some of them, I've ordered and I'm not wanting to squander it. And when I'm working on drawing designs and stuff like that, hooking is different. But just doing designs and tracing stuff and doing stuff with patterns and even folding up the wool that's sold, package that and get that out the door, sometimes takes more concentration than I can afford when I'm like also listening to a book cassette and the book cassette has to go. So it's funny, my brain is not as multitasky as it used to be, I don't think. Goretti, great to see you on time today. You are. And hello, everyone from Cool Acton, Ontario. Barbara, great to see you. Looking forward to some hooking buddy time while you finish up the woolly caterpillar. I put that video out. Did I put that video out with finishing the edges of that? I hope I did. I finished it anyway, and I thought I uploaded it. I hope I moved it from private to visible. That was such a good project. I was just reminded of that a minute ago when I found this, because that was the little post-it note I used the day we did it. I just cut one little body out, and it was all I needed to get all those caterpillar bodies down. I've been liking the ones that I've seen other people finish. It's a fun project, and it's fun seeing what everyone is doing with that. I love those kinds of projects. I am getting set up for, Barbara, when was it? December 4th, National Rug Hooking Day. Let me just check the calendar. I do want to do something special for that. Barbara gave me a really good idea. This whole series we've been doing in the last few days that we concluded yesterday afternoon on acquisitions at the Folk Art Museum in New York City. We've been talking about textile arts and embroidery, needlepoint, rug hooking, quilting, everything, right? December 4th, thank you. And okay, so Rebecca also has a class on that day, but it's at 4. I know, and for Rebecca's classes, I put December 4th at 4, December 5th at 5, because, yeah, Barbara gave me the great idea of having a December 4th, like National Rug Cooking Day, International Rug Cooking Day, using cookie cutters. And the inspiration for that was, remember that cookie cutter quilt that we looked at maybe last Friday or Monday? And it was made with all these little cookie cutters, and they had kind of created all these smaller compositions and put them all together. And really, it was a beautiful composition. I think that's a great idea going sort of into the holidays without leaning too much on Christmas. It could be any kind of cookie cutter. But I think it is a good idea to bring some cookie cutters to that day. And I'll be live for a few hours. And I won't sort of infringe on Rebecca's time because that's important time too. But it could be really fun to work on a project like that together, like the Woolly Bears, where we work on our own project respectively, but using the same techniques and kind of on the same timeline. It's like a very informal class time and just getting together time. So I'm still evolving that thought in my head, but I think that is not a bad idea. Excellent, thank you. I was hoping that video was up. I have been a little bit sick, but I am fine. Obviously, I can't make you sick at all. I think I'm just a bit worn down. It is remarkable how many times I have been to Firestone with my car in the last month. It has been like, if I can measure it in thousands, but it's harder to measure it in time and sanity. But my engine light went on again last night, and I just couldn't believe it. I was bringing Jocelyn home from the trampoline park again, and I just thought I was going to start crying. It was like raining. I just thought, I'll just cry. Like, that'll help a lot, right? I cannot believe that my engine light is on again. And you know what it was? It's worth saying this in case you ever have this happen. The engine light went on last week, right? That was one of the many, many times. And they did the quick diagnostic and said, it seems like there's a major leak. And I thought, major leak? Those two words together are never good, right? That's never going to be good. But they couldn't find anything, and they said, do you feel like your gas is running out quickly, like your gas is leaking? And I thought, well, sounds alarming, but no, it doesn't seem like that. And so they turned the light off, and then a few days went by, and I took her to the trampoline park in the rain, and I was exhausted, and it went on again. And I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me! It's really something, isn't it? Because it's so nice when you have a problem and it just goes away. That's the best. That's like that's not a grown up talking, but that's the best. And I thought, oh, maybe it's one of those. Maybe the problem just goes away. And then the light came back on. So I brought it this morning with a dozen donuts from the nice donut place, not from Dunkin' Donuts, from like the fancy the fancy Whitney Donuts near us. And the car was in the shop all day. And what it was we figured this backward because he said, "Have you ever gassed up the car while the car was on?" And I said, "Of course not. I always understood that was dangerous. I have never done that once in my life." And he said, "I just don't understand this. Like it was like this historic reading of there being a major leak, and that he's like, there's only so many things that would cause that." And I went, "Oh boy," because they replaced my gas cap a few weeks ago, and I remember the first time I used it, unrelated. I don't know how this happened, but I managed to drive home like 5 minutes with the gas cap off. Like I forgot to put the gas cap back on after I gassed up. I've never done that in my life. That was the one and only time, Mom. I swear, I never do this. But I did it when I got home. It was just local. But I thought, oh my God, I had the gas cap open. What is wrong with me? And I said to him, "Do you think that was it?" And he said, "That's definitely it. The the car is a computer, right? It's a Jetson car. It's not a normal car anymore. It's a computer, and it remembers that the gas cap was off like a week ago." And I thought, all right, that's a great problem because it didn't cost any money. We traded like the donuts first thing in the morning for that diagnostic, and it worked out fine. But I said, make sure that you shut that, make sure that you tell the computer in whatever words these are that this isn't a problem and it can forget about this problem so the engine light doesn't go on and I have to go back like the day after tomorrow. Man, amazing times, right? Amazing modern times. I'm telling you, M. Bush, great to see you. Welcome to Friday night. So it's been a little bit hit or miss here, and I have been looking forward all day to opening up this magazine, which I did a couple of hours ago. And I was happy to see it on just a random note that it comes in the packaging, right? It is nice to see it in the packaging because I do feel like a periodical. It doesn't have like a super, super thick cover. It's standard magazine weight and quality. It is nice for it not to get banged around in the post. It arrives in pristine condition. It's this cover that you're seeing behind me, issue number 270 of ATHA magazine, the Association of Traditional Hooking Artists. So we're talking about rug hooking, of course, but there's all kinds of hooking, right? Latch hooking, locker hooking, other kinds of hooking. Um, it's a pretty issue, I have to say. And I'm a little bit surprised because the theme of this issue is sports. Do you remember, dog's ears ago, it seems like I gave the shout out for this issue that there would be an issue the content of which would revolve around the subject of sports. And I thought, man, that's going to be, because I don't play anything but table tennis and occasionally, badminton, but I'm not a sports person. And I thought, ugh. But I have to say, it is a remarkably pretty issue. And the things that were sent in for this theme are very, very nice examples of rug making in general. So we have a lot of eye candy to look at tonight. This is the January 2020, well, December 24, January 25 issue. So let's look at this together. And, as with everything, I'm not going to go absolutely page by page or article by article because I hope that you subscribe to ATHA magazine and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. And, ATHA is a little different than Magpie, but also a lot different than Rug Hooking Magazine. And, they all have merit. It's not apples and apples, so we can never think about it as apples and apples. ATHA magazine, it represents the ATHA chapters and all of the things that the organization, the ATHA organization, and the individual chapters are doing from state to state. So when you subscribe to ATHA magazine, it's different than belonging to the guild, right? Belonging to a guild and showing up, meeting new friends, learning how to hook, being there for talks and events and things. That's different than subscribing to ATHA magazine. But obviously they are linked. The umbrella organization is the same. So this magazine, and I've said this before, that they put out is, to me, there are much of it are features that are like a scrapbook of friends and people who we know, people from your chapter, people from the neighboring chapter, people from across the country. What are they working on right now? What kinds of stuff have they been getting up to? That's what this magazine is about. So in tone, for me, it's a very friendly magazine, and it does give you a very sort of robust impression of what's been going on in the last couple of months in the world of ATHA. So in this particular issue, there's a few things going on. And I have to say, one of the main things that's going on in this issue is a sort of recap of the ATHA convention that happened in Grapevine, Texas, a couple of months ago. So that would be of interest because there were a lot of ATHA people there. Maybe you were there. Oops, wait a minute, wrong screen. Hold on, let me come back over here. Boop, boop. Sorry, just fooling around. There we go. So this is ATHA region number 9. There's a beautiful spread here. I recognize a lot of these friendly faces, a lot of these buddies. Live auction dinner at the Austin Ranch in Grapevine, at the Grapevine Convention. So this is the ATHA biennial convention that just happened in Texas. And we are seeing in this issue a lot of coverage of that. Just as we would, obviously, ATHA Magazine covers ATHA events in great detail, similarly to how Rug Cooking Magazine covers solder events, right? And I think going forward, Magpie Times will cover a lot of Tigger events because I am the president. So that would make a lot of sense. You know, it is good, I have to say, when you are part of an organization, whatever it is, and I'm involved in all three, right? I will be at Solder this year. I belong to several ATHA guilds. I subscribe to the magazine, and I'm the president of Tigger, so I've got my hand in all three pots. I have to say it is important, I think, for an organization to have something printed as a vehicle, because it's important to be able to look through it and get a feel for what's going on, what's happened, what is yet to happen. The sort of general, town criers shout out for what's next. It's good to have that in print because not everybody is on the computer often. I know I'm not. I'm here with you to do these things. I try to look at Facebook, often enough that I'm not a jerk with my own Facebook page and leave too much for Kirsten and the other admins to look at. But if I don't need to be sitting up on the computer, I'm certainly not, and I know a lot of people are like that. So it is good to find stuff in print. Incidentally, Magpie will be shipping very, very soon. I need to put it up for sale. I'm just deciding if I'm going to put it through Ribbon Candy or if I'm going to put it through Ribbon Candy Hooking and Amazon, or if I'm just putting it through Amazon. I'm trying to make that decision right now. Everything is a lot right now. Making good decisions that are the best economic decisions for you too. So as I flip through the early pages of this, there are quite a few pages that are photo pages, and they're not captioned. It's just people who were at the biennial, I should say convention, and everybody's looking really happy and busy. There's lots of dancing. It's Texas, so there's lots of hats and boots and things like that. It is a great sort of variety of people from different places. I recognize a lot of these people from different parts of the U.S. So it is a great spread. It is a great spread. But if you weren't there, that might be less interesting to you than other parts of the magazine. So there is a little bit of real estate in this magazine that is devoted to coverage of the biennial. And that is very fun to look at, I think, especially if you were there. Less interesting if you were not there. So I'm going to kind of fast forward to some of the features that are always in place. Not everything in this magazine is under the category of sports. And before we go forward, let's just talk about those themes, right? Because ATHA is a magazine that you can submit stuff to. And you should, right? If it's interesting to you, you should. So let's recap, because we haven't done this for a while. Let's recap some of the upcoming themes that you might want to send your artwork off for consideration to have published in ATHA. So the themes catalog is as follows. The next deadline is February 1st. That's for April and May of 2025. And that deadline is From the Garden, Fruit, Veggies, and Flowers. Good. I didn't even think to check because Magpie Times, so that's my magazine with Judy Taylor, the deadline is also February 1st. And we are going to stick with, I had lots of great ideas for improvising and sort of shifting the theme, but let's stick with bees. Let's stick with busy as a bee because a lot of you got off and running at that first announcement with bee stuff. So I don't want to take that away from you. And I will kind of branch out to other insects and things. So it is a typical spring theme. And so that is bees, right? And really anything springtime. February 1st for magpie, also February 1st for ATHA, but a little bit of a different theme, gardens, fruit, veggies, and flowers. So that's something to think about. Thank you so much. I usually feel okay. It's odd for me not to, and it makes me really angry and triggered because I'm not used to that slowing me down, you know. So the deadline after that is June 1st, and that will be for the August-September issue of ATHA. The shout out is 21st Century Folk Art. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Are you already thinking of images or thinking of projects that you're working on and thinking, ooh, I think that would go very nicely in there? Mm. And then we'll do one more out because we get very far out very quickly. The deadline after that, that will be for the December, January issue of next year, 2026. That theme will be travel rugs. So the next three themes for ATHA magazine are From the Garden, 21st Century Folk Art, and travel. So that's good to know, you know, that we're working a year forward. I think that's plenty, right? So this issue, again, the theme is sports, but not every article in here is about sports. Diane, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. I've got this peach cider. It really is nice. I've been trying not to drink like at all lately. I needed a pick-me-up today, though. So this feature is called, this is really lovely and a great idea, ATHA Region number 3, Saving the Flowers. What does that sound like? It gives you a clue, doesn't it? It's just what it sounds like. This is by Barbara Twigg of Keedysville, Maryland. And let me start introducing the article, and then I'll show you some of the pictures from this. Barbara says, I was fortunate enough to inherit two of Doris Amar's beautiful unfinished floral rugs. There's the flowers. One was called Maturity. It was a 6-foot by 9-foot. You can see a color photo of the completed rug in Pearl McGowan's Color in Hooked Rugs, page 236. Shoot, I wish I had that handy. I'm not even going to try. I might be gone for 15 minutes. But we know we love that book, and that is, I think, one of the color plates in there. Actually, I don't think any of it's in color, is it? Other than the cover and the frontispiece? I'm not sure. But in any case, if you have it in front of you, it is page number 236. If you have it, a picture of it, send it to me on the phone and I'll hold it up to the camera. So we're talking about a Pearl McGowan piece that's called Maturity. And continuing on with the text, Barbara says, Doris had completed a corner of this huge rug, then set it aside on the top shelf, which was in front of a window for several years. The old burlap became heavily damaged. I had this rug for 10 years in a closet. I decided it was time to bring Doris's gorgeous flowers out where I and others could enjoy them. I decided to make 2 pillows out of the portion that she had completed. I carefully measured and cut, yes, cut, the sizes I wanted. Let's hold and let's look at what this is looking like. I know that sounds good, Diana. Hot toddy sounds better. Something hot does sound great. I probably sound worse than I am. Sorry, I went to the wrong slideshow again. I'm sorry about that, everybody. All right, let's come over here. Now, this is surprising, so get ready. Now, this is a part of the rug that is called Maturity. And this is a picture of the magazine, right? So that's why it doesn't look like, you know, premium quality. I took a picture of a picture. Can you see in this picture that that top part is done? It's kind of folded over. Do you see the giant hole? I know you see the giant hole. It's a giant hole. So this is one of the 2 rugs that we're going to be talking about here that was really having problems. Now, this is really a profound rip, isn't it? And yes, you can patch this stuff. It becomes a question of do you want to, and you know, is it worth it, right? All rugs are beautiful, but in this case, only part of the rug is done, right? And if the colors are not there, to resume the rest of it and finish it with a matching color palette, it could become an exercise in stress and frustration, couldn't it? Quite easily. And I'm sure you can appreciate that too. It's great finding these rugs. It is so sort of Peter Pan to think I can finish all of them. This is why I have so many rugs that I really need to get rid of, because I kept thinking sooner or later I can fix all of them. I can fix all of the rugs problems, and it's just at a certain point unrealistic, isn't it? But this is a great article because it broaches a subject that we never talk about. Is it an idea when you have got a partially finished rug, like the one that was ripped, maturity that we were just looking at, so beautifully done so far? Is it an idea to actually just cut it? Will there be some parts that are lost in the shuffle, right? Going from, an irregularly completed half rug to a couple of pillows, yeah, there will be a little bit left over, maybe for ornaments or some smaller projects. Doesn't mean it has to get thrown out, but what it does mean is the product becomes, in this case, pillows. Sorry, these are beautiful pillows. I mean, when you think about value, intrinsic value of something, this has what kind of value does this piece have? On the plus side, it's gorgeous. It is, a vintage Pearl McGowan pattern. It's maturity. That's not one of the more common patterns. It is beautifully done. The colors really are extraordinary. It's got a very spring quality to it. It doesn't seem like if maturity is like the winter or the autumn of life. This looks more like a spring palette to me. It's just buzzing with spring colors. It's very unusual. The color palette's very unusual, and it's beautifully hooked. It's got a lot of things going for it, but what does it not have going for it? It is not completed. Barbara has not said that the rest of the material to complete it was with the rug, and that would really be a stretch, right? And it has a giant hole in it, at least one. So to be realistic, you've got to weigh the pros and cons and think, how much good is it doing anybody while it's rolled up for more years in a closet? The damage is just getting worse, isn't it? I really think it is a novel and exciting idea to say to people, and it is very brave. In any magazine, it is very brave because we tend to, I think, as rug hookers, and you could say speak for yourself, but I think we tend to be fairly precious about vintage rugs. And I think we justifiably feel that way because rug hooking is such a small craft. And when you find hooked rugs, you get very precious about them. And I do too because they're rare. It's hard to find them. In the grand scheme of things, try making it through a day, without stumbling upon a quilt somewhere hanging on a cafe wall. And I love quilts too, but you know what I mean. So I think sometimes we don't make good decisions about the preservation of specific pieces because we are saving them, and I'm super guilty of this, for a rainy day. Now, this is a great idea. Just sit down and say, you know what? It's time, baby. We're doing it. And you decide, I've got a pillow form that is this size. That means I need to cut it like this. And I've got a second pillow form that's this size. I'm going to put them on my couch. I'm going to look at them every day now. They will be completed objects. They are still objects that Doris hooked. It is still the pattern called Maturity by Pearl McGowan. It's still beautiful. Now there's two of them to enjoy. What a great idea. Ambush has beautiful, and it is so amazing when you see people upcycling. That's it. And putting it to use, making it really enjoyable. I'm glad that you use that word upcycling. I didn't think of that, and you're right. It is a form of upcycling. Instead of letting it languish, right, might as well do something with it that is pretty and polished and finished and a joy to look at, right? We've got a finished piece at last. So I thought this was really interesting. She moves a little bit later. Let me see. Okay, so she shows, this is the next rug that we're looking at. I didn't put all of the first one was Maturity, and this is the second one. I didn't put all of the photos in, but you can see with this one too, there's a large part of the rug that is not finished. And it's not just the white background, is it? And it's probably not white. It's the scroll too, with all of the colors that are in the scroll. So that would be very discouraging to be sitting on these two beautiful pieces that are not completed, right? Because what a project. And then if you do complete them, if you go through all of that dyeing, to get the colors right, or you have somebody do it for you, that's a lot of expense and a lot of experimentation. Um, then you still have to hook it. And you would hope in these scenarios that your style is similar enough that it doesn't look jarring, right? So it is, I think, a great idea to say this to us. This is the right time. How about upcycling? How about um, making some lemonade here with these beautiful old rugs that are incomplete and kind of languishing? So in this case, this rug was called, let me see if she wrote the name for this one. I don't see the name for the second one, I have to say. It might be that it's hooked under or something like that. I don't see the name for the second one, but we looked at it, and this is it here too. You can see that what she's doing here. Now the scroll is not complete. Um, and what one more time looking at this, just come back here for before and after. The scroll is not complete, and neither is this corner of the rug. But you can see in the photo, and I'll show it to you again, she did complete the background just right here so that she could salvage the whole inner flower motif, but took the scroll out, right? Cut the scroll out. So this is the next step in the journey. Making that all important cut. How scary, right? You need nerves of steel to do this, to make that all important cut all the way around. And then it looks like let me see if I put another one of this. Now the article is there for you, right? I just read the first couple of lines, but the whole article is there for you. So if you were interested in doing this and you're thinking, wow, that just kind of validated a thought that I had or an idea that I had to try to do something like this, seeing this article maybe makes you feel like this really is a good idea. This is like a mercy, ending for this rug that is just going to become more and more damaged as time goes on, right? It's not going to it's not going to grow the holes back together. So Barbara says at the end, at first I felt guilty about cutting apart Doris's work, but it was that or they would remain in my closet. Every day I enjoy Doris's flowers. Exactly. So you can see she cut into an oval, and you can see on this side, do I have it here? I didn't do the in-between one, but there was a little bit of the scroll showing, a little bit of the blue scroll, and it looks like she sewed on tape, like cotton tape, and turned it under. So stitched the sides under, and she ended up with a long, skinny oval rug that she just had to finish a very small portion of. But here are Doris's flowers. Both of Doris's rugs. One of them is now a rug for the floor, being used for the first time, beautiful vintage rug, and the other one is cut into 2 pillows. So using both of those rugs every day, that really is something, isn't it? I love that article, and I have to say, I love that was, sorry, I'm getting one of these heat things, right? Woo! I love that this was printed, because I worry that when people put forward these kinds of articles with content that says, how about recycling, upcycling, repurposing some of these rugs, I feel like there must be a reason why we don't hear this more often, because it seems like it's obvious, right? If you're not going to finish the rug, it's still been in the closet for this many decades, right? What else can you do with it? There seems to me, I don't want to be like, sound like I have a conspiracy thought in my head, but you hardly ever see people saying stuff like, why don't you take out a pair of scissors and cut it, right? You just don't see that. I'm very happy that Barbara Twigg printed this article and said that, because this makes perfect sense. And she is talking about enjoying vintage hooked rug projects, right? Very happy to see this. Sometimes when I look at these magazines, I feel like, we're turning corners a lot lately with rug hooking. And again, I think a lot of the reluctance to do these different kinds of projects that involve chop shop, right? Quilters have been doing chop shop stuff for years, right? It's particularly this year, it seems very, very in style for people to be wearing those quilted coats made out of, vintage 1920s, 1930s quilts. You're seeing these oversized quilt jackets. Not on me, because they are super unflattering, right? And I can't bear any more weight on me. But they do look pretty. They do look pretty. I see them on other people, and I think, wow. Number one, you have the figure for that. Number two, it's a beautiful way to celebrate the quilt. But quilters have been doing this for years, and as rug makers, we have not been doing this at all. So it is for me nice to see this conversation actually happening in print. Beautiful, Barbara. That was a beautiful article. Now let's come back over here. And again, I'm skipping a lot of the articles here because you might have ATHA, you might be expecting it to arrive. So I'm skipping over some of the sports stuff. It starts pretty quickly. It's all beautiful stuff. It's all beautiful stuff. But I don't want to cover every single article because I want to leave some surprises for you. And I don't want to I don't want to do a huge spoiler alert for ATHA. I just want to kind of skim the surface and let you know what sort of content is in here. This really caught my eye, and I thought, let's bring this to a broader audience here. This is called, as you can see, Request for Information. The last ATHA convention included an anonymous donation of a near-complete rug with the initials JC and a potential date 95. Please send any information you may have about this rug to Rose Kanuski, the current owner, and she gives her email address. Now, let's sit for a second with this. We can safely say that we are talking about 1995, right? Not 1985. Let's look at this close up. I got excited for a minute, and then I realized that it wasn't what I thought. Hold on one second. Do you recognize this rug? Let's look at it as close up as we can. Remember, we're looking at a photo of a photo. So let's see what clues we can sort of glean from this rug. Now, it is on, it looks like a Navajo woven rug, doesn't it? It's obviously not. It's on rug hooking backing. It looks like it's on burlap or linen. That part doesn't matter. JC is the best clue we've got, and the pattern itself. Now, it looks to me like, and help me out here because I'm just looking with my eyes and I'm figuring as I go. Sorry. Shifting a little bit. There we go. For a split second, I thought, could it be an Abenaki rug? And it's definitely not. Because I thought for a second, are we talking about a rug with a pile? And I don't think we are. Can anybody see better than I can see? That wouldn't take much at this point. I do have my readers on, but it is very hard to see, and the photo is quite small in ATHA magazine. You know, the Abenaki rugs that we've talked about so many times on Coffee Time, the Helen Albee rugs from New Hampshire, are so elusive. And what we know about them for sure is that they have a cut pile. And I got excited when I saw the edges of this because I thought, ooh, is that a cut pile? Holy mackerel. Because Helen Albee only ever did her interpretation of Native American designs. She never did anything but Native American designs. That was in her mind in the year 1900, 1901, when she wrote her book on rug making and dyes. That was her sort of ideal aesthetic. She didn't do anything but Native American designs. And I got excited because I thought maybe this is a cut pile. I'm just not sure why we're seeing that sort of fringy edge. Now, what do you all think? What do you think could be happening here? I have to assume that it is indeed a hooked rug and not something else. I mean, it is on a backing, so I guess it has to be a hooked rug. Do you think that this rug possibly has a cut pile? Number one. Number two, do you recognize the pattern? Particularly in the context of having the initials JC. And I'm wondering why I'm only seeing, or am I only seeing the ends sticking up on the edges? Because I'm seeing them on the border edges, but also the part that's about to be finished, that gray or denim blue part, the red and the black, I'm seeing the edges sticking up on those too. What do you think's going on here? Do you think the person is leaving all of the edges up and it's just like lucky that we're not seeing them on other parts of the rug? Because there is quite some detail. The black outlining and stuff, if this person hooks in such a way that they're leaving their tails up, wouldn't you think that would be throughout? I can't understand why we're just seeing the edges, the tails uncut on the sides and on the edge of where he or she is working. The second thought I had after Abenaki, and I'm not sure, and I have not had time to research, was the next sort of brand, commercial brand of rug making, that features a lot of, if not Native American, then native style designs. Canada, right? If we move to Canada with our thoughts, the Ridimere rugs, right, do a lot with this kind of design. They did a lot, right? They're not in business anymore. I'm doing a show in here. God. It made me think of that too. It is an odd design. Let me move out again. It really strikes me as a Navajo type design, and I'm not an expert on different Native American rugs from region to region. I'm not an expert. What I know is what you know because we've done shows on that subject, and you have all of my knowledge in this area, which is not very much. It almost reminds me of the what's called the bear claw motif. Do you know? It's stylized for sure, and it seems like a modern adaptation of that kind of motif. But I also feel like I see the eagle in it, um, the mountains right in the middle, like the Twin Mountains. There's a lot. It almost seems like the greatest hits of Native American design. I can't place it at all myself, but I wanted to show it to you all just in case any of you thought, ooh, I think I recognize the pattern. I know someone with the initials JC who used to always hook this kind of thing. And if so, please be sure that you get in touch with Rose because she obviously is very keen to find out more about this piece. And Bush says, perhaps because it hits, oh, the last rug. And Bush, she wrote, perhaps because it hits some as irreverent. And yet, in the end, it can be, let me come back to you, it can be honoring, shifting our expectations to align with new circumstances. Absolutely. If there's one thing that you have to be in this world, it's flexible, isn't it? That's if you are not flexible, life is so hard in every way. And as rug hookers, we're very traditional. I know that quilters are traditional, but I would venture to say, in my opinion, rug hookers are more traditional. We can do really avant-garde work, but just the very nature of the craft and the way that our hands move, the kinds of supplies that we search for, the immediate nature of finishing each loop, each section, even if it's just 1 inch that day, as we go, it's very immediate. It's a super historical craft. The backbone is very historical. For quilters too, quilters because there's so much quilting and we've seen so much of it over the decades, right? Quilters became modern too and do a lot of really sort of really contemporary work, and that's very exciting. Speaking of which, one of my buddies, Deb, who was in the class that I taught in Madison last weekend, she told me that, do you know the quilting artist Joe Cunningham? He is extraordinary. I missed his show at the Cahoon Museum on Cape Cod, which closed in September. And he has a show opening tomorrow at the New England Quilt Museum in Lowell, Massachusetts. I was thinking about it, but I'm heading up one town over from that for Thanksgiving. I'm not inclined to go twice in 1 week because it is quite far. But the show will be open, and from what I understand, Joe will be talking tomorrow at the New England Quilt Museum. So if you're anywhere near there, Joe Cunningham is a big deal. And talk about like new and exciting quilt work. As rug hookers, I think we move at a different rate toward things that are like very different, very avant-garde. And I think in part it is the medium itself that I don't want to say holds us back, but keeps us rooted. And I don't, not in a negative way, right? Because I love being rooted in the way that I am with rug crafts. But I think we are very traditional people. And it is hard. I think it takes a long time to, in your mind, come to peace with the idea of hacking something up that is absolutely beautiful, doesn't have damage, right? But you're right. We have to think about things in practical terms, and we have to think about how to salvage and save older pieces, like the ones that Barbara Twig cut to make into the rug and the pillows. We have to think about how to salvage those pieces because it's not doing anybody any good for them to be rolled up in closets. The damage, the possibility of moths getting at them and more damage is so scary, and it's so real, right? So I absolutely agree. It's just, I think, talking about it more and saying, well, You've got you bought a beautiful rug, but it's 50% unfinished. Here's some ideas of things that you could do with it so you could still enjoy it. We don't have to enjoy it as a rug. We can enjoy it as a piece, right? A pillow's also beautiful. It doesn't have to be a rug to be the most beautiful. It can be something hooked that's completely different, right? And even the idea of cutting a piece smaller and putting it up on the wall. I have some pieces, just another idea. One of them I bought because I thought it was a Helen Albee piece. And if you remember, this was a couple years ago on Coffee Time. I bought it at an antique store in Maine, which is right next to New Hampshire. And I thought, oh my God, it was kind of rolled up on a wooden, like an embroidery frame, like a floor frame. And I couldn't see what the rug looked like. But man, it was split in 1,000 places. And I thought, I'm not going to unroll it at the store because there was loops like all over the floor that had fallen out of it and little bits of burlap, and it was super fragile. And if you remember this episode, I brought it to the studio and I said, let's unroll this live together. And we did. I set up the camera that day and we ran Coffee Time and I unrolled it. And spoiler alert, it was not a Helen Albee. And I should have known it was not a Helen Albee. I think that was before I did the Helen Albee episode, because during the episode, I read her book from cover to cover and learned that she only did cut pile rugs, and this was not a cut pile rug. I think it was, what was it? It wasn't a McGowan rug. I think it was an heirloom rug. It was still beautiful. It was a very Native American pattern, but it was an exciting moment and didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to go, but it was a lot of fun. And what I did with that rug, because it is so damaged and it's only partly finished, is I have it displayed on kind of a long rod, like a quilt rod. I have it folded over carefully, right? So it's not on its own weight. It's not on the part that's unfinished, right? I have it kind of rolled over very softly and carefully, and it is on its own loops, and the part that's unfinished is tucked behind. So it's almost like a towel on a shower rack, right? On a towel rack in the shower. You're only seeing part of it, but you're seeing the part that's finished, and a little bit of the part that's not finished is on the roll itself to kind of absorb the impact of that contact. I don't want the burlap directly on there because it's super brittle and it's already ripping. So that's another thought when you're displaying something. If you really love something, you might just want to display it unfinished or have it mounted unfinished. It is part of the story of raw cooking, right? Things aren't born done. We know that, right? So it is fun to look at things that are at various stages of being finished. Now this is a little bit different, isn't it? This piece here that Rose is looking for help with, because it's all finished except this one corner where I can't tell if it's blue gray or blue. But that one corner, now that is a little bit different because that's distracting, isn't it? When it's just this very geometric part that's missing, it's like a puzzle piece fell off or a piece of sort of inlay of something fell off. But when it's organic, like Barbara's examples, like, is sort of mix and match where it was filled in and where it wasn't. In a way, that's very interesting. And you do get to see the backing material. A lot of fun. And Barbara says maybe ends would be cut once the border gets added. Oh, interesting. That makes the most sense, I think. Pattern looks like it calls for a border. Yeah, absolutely. Let's come back over here. I think it does. I think you're right. I think it's a very small border, just that small little ribbon border. But I think you're right. It's probably a black border in the end. And she or he who's making this, if that glass just broke, get away from it. We cannot go one day of our lives here without breaking something. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think when the tails get out to the edge, hope that wasn't something nice. It's probably when they were planning on trimming it. Very good logic. Sorry about that. Oh, Judy says, is there a difference in the height of the pile between the red center and the gray around it? Let's come back and see. Hold on. Come back over here. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit again. Let's take one more look at this. Really nice. Did anybody see this rug in person at ATHA? Was it like I wonder if it was something that sold at the silent auction or something. Difference between the height and the pile around the red center. Gosh, it's hard to tell, isn't it? It's really hard to tell. You know, the funny thing is, when I'm looking at this rug, I'm just thinking, you know, we have done shows about the crossover between Native American patterns, particularly Navajo, and um, and rug hooking designs. At the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, we did see a lot of Native American designs that came out early on, not just Helen Albee with the Abenaki rugs, but we did see Ridimere, we did see Pearl McGowan doing some touching on Native American, more Eastern European and Asian style rugs for her, what she called her ethnic rugs. Um, as a genre within rug hooking, this style, like Navajo style rug, is not a huge genre. We do see them; they're not unknown, but it is a fairly small niche, which makes me think, you know, does anybody know who could have been working on this? Because it seems to me, if you like this style of rug, you probably have done more than one of them. Like, to be honest, this style of rug appeals to me not at all. That's just my personal taste. I love things to be wild and crazy and busy. So this design wise doesn't appeal to me at all. But if it did, I'd probably have done 10 of them already. You know what I mean? If this is your taste, you might have them all over the house. Something to think on for sure. All right, so let's come to the next feature. I've got one ear open to the glass in the other room. I still hear glass. All right, let's see. So the next feature is from ATHA Region 1. This is from Lisanne Miller of Wells, Maine, right? She has W. Cushing and Company. And this feature is called Snow is a Four-Letter Word, but Fun to Hook. Well, that's true. I think particularly in Maine. So this is a pattern that is called Christmas Eve. And this whole article is devoted, it's a pattern that Cushing obviously sells. It's from a vintage postcard. It's originally a Joan Moshimer pattern. So, in other words, Joan Moshimer translated a vintage postcard to create this pattern that is called Christmas Eve that Cushing sells. It's 24 by 36. And so, in this article, we're seeing lots of examples of different people hooking this pattern. Now, the detail that you're seeing here is a close up of the version that Lisanne Miller herself did called Christmas Eve. And this whole article, let me see if I have another one. I do have another one. This one here is hooked by Patty Cassidy of Sandusky, Ohio. Putting myself in this scene was so wonderful. Enjoyed the challenge of the elements, the snowdrifts, shadows, getting the depth, and the horse with the sleigh. It's a great nostalgic rug to display. Oh, it is, isn't it? It really is. It's a beautiful, you get the feel of a vintage postcard. It so reminds me of the movie Christmas in Connecticut. A little horse in the quiet. Imagine how quiet this evening is, right? Little, just the sound of the hooves and the sliding over the snow of the sleigh. People talking, probably the jingle bells, right? The sleigh bells ringing. And otherwise very quiet and probably bitter cold. Probably the occupants are wearing like a little fur blanket or something like that to keep warm, right? Windshield factor high. Such a beautiful scene. I also love the shadows. I love how the shadows of the tracks of the sleigh are deeper and darker than the shadows that the tree is casting. I love the sky, the sort of neutral gray of the sky and the silhouettes of the trees because they don't exactly look black to me. They look more like greenish black, right? Like really dark green. It is such a beautiful scene with the village houses quite dark, but the little church looking white and just spotlessly clean and bright and cheerful in this dark little landscape at night. I love how the sort of fingers of the branches with the little fronds, the individual fronds that you see on the edge of the pine tree, dipping, kind of framing the left side of the composition. Really smart composition, really nostalgic, and it must have looked like fun. Be working on this and feeling like you were there. That is the great thing about working on projects is sometimes they really transport you, don't they? And Bush, you said just watched Lisanne Miller today. Very helpful. Yep, I caught a little bit of that too on Facebook. Yeah, so this is a great feature, and I'm going to skip over some of these because they're all the same and they're all lovely. One of them toward the end I think is, I mean, they're all my favorite. They're all absolutely beautiful. But I thought this one was especially pretty for me. This is Christmas Eve, hooked um, by Jenna Sleeper, Florida. So it's from Florida. I really enjoyed hooking this Christmas scene. I decided to add a moon because it made this a night scene. To be a bit different, I added a cow. This turned out to be my husband's favorite rug. So interesting, and a great example of how you can add, how now, brown cow, how you can add different things. You know, you get the commercial pattern, the lines are there. You don't have to do the lines exactly the same way as they are drawn. If you have little touches that you think would benefit the piece, in this case, it's very different, and it's apples and oranges. So I'm not comparing it to the one before or any of the other ones in this feature. But I will say I do love the moon. It reminds me of a Grant Wood painting. I'll show you a Grant Wood painting in a second. So, and you're going to go, oh yeah, it does remind you of that. I love the addition of the moon, and I love the size of the moon. I also love the addition of the cow. It makes it feel to me more of a like a community than like an isolated village. And for some reason in this one, I love the motion of the sleigh, the scarf flying behind. The shape seems a little bit more a silhouette driven than the last one we saw. It's more of a shape than my eye can't really pick out the details of it, but the shape of the sleigh with the riders has, or rider singular, it's hard to tell, has a lot of motion, right? For like a small little stagnant silhouette, has a lot of motion. The tracks really take me in on this one too, and I love the repetition of the snow being worn down where the tracks have been, but also the snow being worn down where the cow is, you know, nosing around, browsing through the snow and looking for stuff. So really, really different. Another big difference with this piece is that the houses are many colors, and it is slightly, it's a different feel, isn't it? With that big moon, it makes sense that you would be able to see the houses a little bit better. I love that they're all different colors. They're all very traditional, primary type colors, right? Very traditional sort of rug hooking color palette. Really good for this piece because it is a vintage piece. It is a nostalgic piece. And when I say Grant Wood, I know you know the work of Grant Wood. Just feels like that. This being a different perspective, Grant Wood is one of my favorite artists. We haven't done a design like yet. Maybe we should. He often takes a very odd, different perspective. This is like the God's eye view in this case, but the Christmas Eve, the pattern isn't the God's eye view. It's looking across the meadow, you know, at the village. But this is looking down on the village. But it is the same size village, and the church looks almost the same. And that one sort of ribbon of a road that gives access to the village, that seems the same too. It just reminded me of that. Judy says of the last piece, by adding the moon, she brought new colors to the tree line. That's true. You know, the tree line is much more lit up. So in the last case, remember it was more of a gray sky and the trees were darker. In this case, it's more of an inky blue midnight sky and the trees are lighter. And Judy's point is absolutely is right on. The trees are brighter because the moonlight is hitting them. So there are different opportunities when you place a lighting source into your composition. You know, you can do it in a very primitive way, just as a motif, or you can really think about the way that the moon is going to affect the way that the light lands on the composition. If you notice in this piece also, the branches of the tree on the left-hand side are cut in favor of having the moon there because the branches were covering that corner. So those are gone, but the moon is here instead, which gives us, somehow we're panning back a little bit more and seeing an uninterrupted view of the village. It's completely different. Just those small changes, it really feels like a different composition, doesn't it? Love that. I love that. And there was our Grant Wood, and then okay, so these are a couple more examples. This is a fairly long article, and it is so much fun to look at different versions of the same piece. The one on the right, Christmas Eve, hooked by Lizanne Miller, that's the one that we saw a crop of first, right? The little close-up of, this is much more of a monochromatic handling, very exciting texture happening in this. But if you notice on the one on the top right, that's Lizanne, her own piece, the church is lit up. And it almost gives me the idea that it's midnight mass, because it's like everything is dark except the church. Something's going on in the church. And if it's Christmas Eve, it would be midnight mass, right? So that is another fun interpretation, because I've read recently that midnight mass is the most popular mass of the year. People come flooding in for the magic of the feel, that time of night, feeling a little bit tired, swaying on your feet if you didn't get a seat, and listening to the music. And it really is magical and transcendental in a lot of ways, isn't it? At midnight. And I think this really captures that moment, that there is light and activity inside the church, and it's very, very quiet. Everything else is completely quiet. Barbara says, amazing job on Snow Under Cow that would have been trotted on. In Jenna's piece, that last piece, that's so true. It was such a well done and well thought out angle. And that's the thing about rug making. Whether you hook in a realistic manner or a very primitive manner, or a graphic manner, doesn't matter, right? When you approach all the different parts of the rug, you have chances to add things, take things away, simplify things, lean in, make things more complicated, more articulated, more busy, or shaded, or realistic, or whatever your taste is. So it is interesting to see multiple people doing the same composition, because it's so interesting just looking at the differences from one to the next and thinking that this is the thought process. How neat is that? Right? I mean, that it really is fun to say, gosh, if I was sitting there, and the other one on the side here that wasn't really on the screen, it's in the fold, but in this version, everything is pretty much the same. This is by Jane Dunaway. Not pretty much the same. This is absolutely gorgeous, and a gorgeous piece in and of itself. But she took out in this one here the limbs of the branches of the tree also. Um, and that is a bit of a composition question between rug hooking and, for example, a postcard. A postcard, these are like Victorian and early 20th century postcards. It was really, they were very frame and border heavy in those days, right? Everything was super, super ornate, and that carried over onto postcard design. So it's very common with winter scenes, or, to see the thing framed out with trees, like, extra charming, that you're looking from under the branches of a tree. But for rug hooking, that isn't always practical, right? And in some cases, it was a desirable look, and in other cases, it wasn't. And it's just a question of, this is something we talk about a lot. This is something that we will definitely talk about on Sunday during the photography class. What do you want to keep and what do you want to leave out, right? That is the crux of it, no matter what you do. Whether you are a fashion designer, or a musician who's writing a song, or you're writing a poem, or you're hooking a rug, what do you want to keep and what do you want to leave out, right? Because making those cuts, that is the hard part, isn't it? Coming up with a million ideas on your best day, that's the easy part. Making cuts, painful. So it is interesting to see people's individual choices. It was super peaceful. That piece, Christmas Eve, is just gorgeous. Now, the piece I kind of flashed to here is called First Retreat. This feature is from ATHA Region Number 5 by Suzette Berlin of Irmo, South Carolina. That is the Big Muddy chapter, the Big Muddy. So Suzette says, I live in a small town, and our hooking group sponsored our first historical Bethel fiber retreat in July of 2024. We had 47 attendees and felt very successful. We are now planning our retreat for 2025. Many ATHA members attended, representing 3 states. I'm asking if we can have our retreat picture in ATHA magazine. I showed you one of the projects from the retreat, but let me show you this. I mean, that really is fantastic, having a nice big retreat like that. 48, that is a good number. And it looks like they had a lot of fun working on their projects. First ever retreat. Isn't that fun? And what I pulled up here was, oh my God, you're going to be so sick of that. A penny rug. Somebody was working on a penny rug. So not rug hooking, but wool applique, stitching directly onto wool backing. Thought I saw a Dorset button there, but I don't think so. I think it looks like Oh, someone else was working on a penny rug as well. It looks like in this guild, there's a lot of people working on wool applique pieces. So it's great to have different people working on different things, isn't it? This is beautiful. The whole penny design on straight onto wool backing, and you can see from the rolled up part that there's quite a few more that have already been done. What a great project! Just sewing them on one to the next, to the next, to the next. This reminds me, you know, the artist Sue Spargo. She does a lot of these kinds of penny, decorative pennies, embroidered pennies like this. I have a few of her books. They are incredibly expensive, particularly the ones that are out of print, but it's such a lot of good inspiration. And, you know, I realized from looking at this that there's another picture of a woman here, and she's working on a penny rug here. And then there's a picture of a woman here who's doing a large applique project that looks like it's for the bed. But you can see there's a lot of, it's white on white, but there's a lot of stitched detail in there. So it's so nice, you know, when you get together, it's great to have a big number of people. Like 48 is a lot. But it's nice to have people working on different things because you can look at what other people are doing. You can learn a little bit. You can revisit some of the other crafts that you really love. You don't have to be a purist all the time, right? Do you go when you go out to eat? Do you always go for Indian food or Italian food every single time? I mean, most people don't, right? Most people dabble. So that was sweet seeing the first ever event for that Big Muddy Guild in South Carolina, and they are already looking forward to their next event. So I'm going to flip through because there are a lot of advertisements in here. This is Bob. This comes from White Mountain Woolen Magic. I've been to this guild. This is a fun guild. ATHA chapter number 1, right? So that's New England. Hudson, New Hampshire. This is by Lynn Ashworth. And this is Bob. Wow. Catherine, great to see you. Taking care of twin grandsons all by yourself. Oh, my word. I'm sure you are doing a great job. Holy mackerel. So Lynn Ashworth, oh, look at Bob. I mean, just look at this face. So much character. Lynn says, I hooked this rug as a surprise for my sister. She had never had a cat before, but was moved to adopt Bob after seeing a posting on her local Rescue League website. The cat had no tail, hence the name Bob, and the shelter had no history on the cat, so didn't know how he came to be tailless. Poor old Bob. As my sister lives in Virginia and I live in New Hampshire, I had not met Bob and I didn't know what he looked like. In order to see him so I could draw him and get his coloring, I had to get her to send me a picture. I did this by telling her I had seen a tabby cat with the most beautiful blue eyes. She replied by telling me Bob was a tabby, but he had green eyes, and she enclosed a picture. That was very clever, Lynn. Voila! I now could hook Bob. I had never hooked an animal before and found it to be quite a challenge. The most difficult part, and I felt the most important part, was getting his eyes right. And so I began there. Isn't that so true? Because that expression, right? The windows to the soul, the expression of the eyes, right? Diane says, those eyes. It's so true. He has slightly big eyes, doesn't he? And he's got very small lips. Very petite little nose. Oh, Rita! I like that she didn't try to put on his whiskers. Our brain fills in the whiskers. Absolutely. It can be distracting, right? Whiskers can be distracting. All of the different colors in his eyes, right? I'm looking at it close up. It's the dark green, it's the medium green, it's the sage green, it's the sort of flat pistachio, it's amber, orange, and white, and surrounded by brown. Um, Not that dark, right, that you would see around a cat's eyes, a little bit lighter, a little bit softer. And the article is much longer, but it is all about Bob and how this was done. And I think it is especially and diabolically fantastic how that information was extracted without any alarms going off. I think that is really, really smart. Now, let's come to a bit of business here, talking about ATHA. I'm going to take a sip of this. My voice sounds awful. I hope it doesn't sound as shredded as it does in my head because I feel fine. It's not good. Oh, yeah. So, this is an important part of ATHA. 2025. Um, this is about the 2025 nominating committee. So this is a 2-page spread. And if you got ATHA magazine, and if you are a joiner, not that kind of a joiner, like you join things kind of a joiner, there is a really detailed list of ATHA job descriptions. It really is important to represent both your local chapters, right? I know there are some local chapters right now who are really in need of leadership. I know you're saying, Deanna, why don't you do it while you're shooting your mouth off? Well, I'm serving as president of Tigger for 3 years, so I really can't do anything more than that unless I plan to put my kids up for adoption. Just kidding. But there are plenty of positions that need filling. So it describes the positions of the president, the vice president, the treasurer, the secretary, the communications director, the regional coordinator, the regional representatives. So this is worth reading if you feel that you have time, that you are able to give this kind of important service to an important organization, so that they can continue with the same level of high quality output and integrity that they have always operated with. It is good to sort of ensure the legacy and the longevity of these organizations, right? There's not many for us in rug hooking. It's important to show up for stuff in life, isn't it? So if you think that you might be somebody who would be interested in that kind of leadership, you should read that article very closely. This is another really fun feature. And oh, Bob, you are too coot. You are too coot. Um, right here. So do you remember, you know how with all of the ATHA conventions, there usually is like a special thing that people make or buy. Sometimes it's like a dye book or a collected book. In this case, it was this box that came with the patterns that you could hook and then apply to the lid of the box, like a tiny hope chest or a tiny recipe box. So this is a feature by the Blue Ridge Ruggers, the second annual retreat that featured a hooked mat with a box workshop. This is ATHA Region number 3, the Blue Ridge chapter. This is by Leonora Drismala of Fincastle, Virginia. And she says, since forming our chapter in 2019, one of our goals has been to hold an annual workshop. The vision of our founding member Eleanor Brannon, was to create a group where hookers could come together to hone their art of rug hooking, and to pass the art onto others. What began with about 15 women at our first meeting has quickly grown to be over 40 dedicated members. Many of them are new hookers. I won't read the article, but it talks about doing this project in a how many day workshop? I missed it. I'm sorry. 3-day workshop. They were working on finishing these pieces and then cutting them, finishing them, tucking the edges under, so that they could be actually attached to the lid of these boxes. It is a great project. It looks like in the finished photos, you see lots of photos in this feature. See if there's any more. Oh, not yet. Of people doing the different designs, because there were quite a few designs that were on offer. The flowers, right? You're seeing the flowers repeat here. You saw this one a second ago, but the hearts, the sort of hit or miss checkerboard, the polka dots, the stylized sort of 4-leaf clover. I'm not sure what that's called. One of them says seeds. I don't remember seeing that one. Do you see down toward the bottom left? It's blue. It says seeds in the center. That's really fun, isn't it? That's real specific. And I see daisies. I see hooked pennies, like for penny rugs. So it looks like a lot of buddies were here doing lots of different kinds of covers for their boxes. And the boxes seem to have come out just beautifully. Super professional. So well done. The Blue Ridge Ruggers. What a fun thing to do for a 3-day workshop, right? And there's a few pages of these designs, finished designs on the boxes, and they really are inspirational and pretty, really pretty. So I'm flipping through a few more of the advertisements. And then I come to the feature that is about sports. So more sports rugs, because for a minute I forgot that this issue is about sports. And this article is called Sports Rugs for My Grandsons by Jean Gueswian of Palmyra, Indiana. So I'm going to kind of keep going because I don't want to show you too much of the one issue. This issue is 82 pages and there are a lot of advertisements. So while the content is great, I don't want to blow through all of it, right? So I'm going to kind of keep flitting along, but there are very many nice short articles in here with projects, by the author. Um, Very interesting and heavy sports theme this time. I have to say, although the sports theme is fantastic for me, I am a hair disappointed personally that there's not more of a winter theme. I loved seeing the Christmas Eve thing, and there's a few sort of holiday things, and I know not everybody celebrates the same holiday, right? So I don't want to be a pig and say, oh, I wish there was more Christmas stuff. But, in a way, it's like Christmas stuff, winter stuff, whatever. I just love seeing that once a year stuff as often as I can during this time of year because for the rest of the year we don't see it at all. Oh, Judy, Palmyra is just a few miles from you. How interesting is that? Yeah, her name is, let me say it one more time, Jean Geswein, Geswein, the Pucka Huddlers chapter. Oh, two chapters, the Buffalo Trace Rug Hookers and the Pucka Huddlers chapters. So she is in that hornet's nest of greatness right there. It sounds like there's two very busy chapters right there. Now, this is an article. This is not an article. This is a page. ATHA Region Number 10, Abby Lindsay, Loveland, Colorado. The Colorado Rug and Fiber chapter. Four-wheelin' in the Rockies. And this is 20 by 16, mostly in a 6-cut on monk's cloth, adapted from a photo my son took of in his Toyota. I got, gosh, is that a Toyota? I just figured that was a Jeep. I got the courage to hook this while meeting with Laura Pierce in a small group monthly on Zoom. Sorry. Oh, I'm yawning. I'm so sorry. I'm not bored at all. I'm beat up. I had to walk back and forth to the car dealership today, and it's not close. And it was raining. So it took a while for Abby to work up the courage, and having met Laura Pierce was the, I guess, the tipping point in hooking this piece because it is a very different subject. Honestly, I never thought that if you said to me, there's this hook drug of like a Jeep, but actually a Toyota, four wheeling over some rocks, I'd say it's probably not for me. Like I look at it, but it's probably not going to speak to me. This is an astonishing piece. I mean, this piece is amazing. It's like there is something so exciting about the car. Not it doesn't read as dangerous to me, but it's the car kind of moving downhill over these rocks. The implied motion there, the energy, the speed, right, the bumpiness. It's a very active composition. And the background is beautifully hooked. The rocks are beautifully hooked. The background is beautifully hooked. And this is such a personal piece because the vehicle itself, you see how in the actual photo, the hood of the vehicle is like the paint is missing and it's really grayed. And it's been hooked that way too. So very personalized, right? So if this was going to the sun, this would be such a special piece because it's not just this moment, it's not just him, but it's this vehicle, right? And obviously he must love this vehicle and must love using and driving around and four-wheeling in this vehicle in the Rockies. It's just such an unusual piece, and it's a great addition to the sport theme. Because when we think of sports, I tend to think of traditional sports like field type sports and group sports and team sports. It's nice to see something like that that's a bit different. This for me was very different too. This is called Face Off, ATHA Region Number 6. Phil Omiasinski of Garfield Heights, Ohio, the Western Reserve chapter. I might have to blow my nose. Hold on, let me see it. I'm not going to do it on camera, believe me. I just feel so sniffly. No tissues. I'm good. Face off. So I love the primitive nature of this piece. I love the graphic nature of this piece. I love graphic work. I love the graphic nature of it. It reminds me of like the arcade and the sort of, the, what do you call that thing? Air hockey, right? Where you turn the air on and there's these goals and stuff. And then these two kind of little characters in there in black and white. They almost look like cartoon characters. Such a lot of fun. This was designed by Connie Bradley of Wellington, Ohio, hooked by Phil Omiasinski of Garfield Heights, Ohio. Face off. And Phil writes, I was an avid counted cross stitcher for about 15 years when I decided to follow in the steps of my mom, who had been a rug hooker for decades. After finishing my first rug, I was hooked. I have been hooking for about 20 years. All the rugs I've hooked have gone to family and friends as gifts. Face Off is a result of being a hockey mom for 31 years. What a good sport. And hockey nana for 6 years. The two hockey snowmen represent my grandsons Braden and Levi. Connie did a great job of taking my idea and coming up with a design. The rug is going to become part of the hockey room my daughter-in-law is currently setting up in her home. Gosh, this is like the perfect thing, isn't it? And yes, no wonder they look cartoony. They are snowmen. How cute is that? Isn't there something so it's just so endearing in this simple design. It's so graphic. It's very stylized, but you perfectly understand what it represents. I think this is a super successful composition. If I saw this, I mean, I don't know the first thing about hockey. Not the first thing. I know they use sticks and a puck, and they're on skates. That's it. I know they get in a lot of trouble and they go to the bad boy box often. That's all I know. But even with that limited knowledge, I would say if I saw this somewhere, I would be really interested in this piece because the graphic success of it is off the charts. I think it is whimsical. Um, it very artistically represents the sport, and the colors are great too. It's great. It's one of my favorite pieces in this magazine. I really love it. I just love the interpretation. And the snowman, the use of snowmen. This is another one that was really fun for me. Pig race, ATHA region number 2. This is Hoboken, New Jersey. Nancy Thun. Pig race, 42 by 32, hand-dyed 3-ply wool yarn on cotton rug warp backing, finished in 2014. This was Nancy's third rug, designed, hooked, and photographed by Nancy herself in Hoboken, New Jersey. And you can see on the top, there's a daughter or granddaughter, a family member, in any case, sitting on it on the floor, looking at jewelry and playing with some fun stuff, using the rug, right? Enjoying the rug. It is really a fun piece. I have seen one pig race like this, and it was at a country fair. I was very confused. It happened very fast. It was exciting for sure. I think this is an exceptional composition. Do you notice how the one little paw of is paw the right word? Hoof of the first pig, the winning pig, he's got the mojo, right? His eyes look crazy, like he's going for it. His little foot is breaking the border there and coming right toward us. The hay, which I'm guessing it's hay that's like scattered down, is so well done. It's so colorful and well done. Let me just stretch this open a little bit more. I think the colors are exceptionally good because it's a lot of yellow and purple, right? Those are opposites, different blues and pinks. Um, if you laid out these colors on a table for me and said, guess what this composition is going to be about, the first 1,000 things would not be pigs. So that's interesting because it is absolutely spot on color wise. But the colors are really creative. The straw looks like straw, but there's so many colors in there. What a great sort of hit or miss fill for the straw. Look at the shadows done exactly the same way but darker. That is real talent, isn't it? That's really, really well done. And the little sort of, what are they, shirts? Saying the numbers of the pig, right? That's hard to figure out. I'm wondering if Nancy worked from a photograph because I would struggle with every part of this. I would be tempted to show them from the side with the numbers just so I didn't screw anything up. This is a way more active approach to illustrating this moment, seeing these pigs running toward us, right? What are they thinking? God knows what they're thinking, but they seem to want to beat each other. And it's a fun, lively piece. You can feel the energy, feel the speed. The expressions on their little faces is just hysterical. I love the purple with the yellow too. And I love the black background, right? That is not what you would expect, because the black background has some hit or miss colors in it. You see the other colors kind of peeking through. Really, really thoughtfully done. This is an amazing third rug. I mean, Nancy must have been a very accomplished artist upon approaching rug cooking, right? Because, I mean, this isn't something that you just pull out of a hat. Really well done. Beautiful. All right, let's see. Keep on going here. Keep on going. Oh, and we do hit some holidays, so I wanted to share that. And again, I know that not everybody celebrates Christmas. It is fun. You know, the thing is, even with Magpie, I gave the shout out for other winter holidays, but I didn't get anything. So I'm really hoping, and I'll shout out all the time, you know, if you are someone who celebrates holidays that we don't talk about as often as Christmas or whatever, any time of the year, whatever, make sure that you are in touch, at least with Magpie. I'm always interested in publishing a wider range of holidays and representing a sort of broader sort of cultural dynamic than we sometimes see. I celebrate Christmas and I love Christmas. So I was really happy to see Adventures with Santa, unique rugs from a Donna Harkman workshop, ATHA Region Number 9 by Rebecca Cook in collaboration with Brenda Barton, Judy Dorsey, and Julie Oles. And this starts out with, one would expect that a rug pattern taught by the same teacher and hooked in the same workshop would result in rugs that turned out to be homogeneous in regard to hooked details and color choices. But that was not what happened at the 3-day Donna Harkman workshop in Arlington, Texas in February of 2024. Upon arrival at this workshop, which was hosted by the Texas Rug Runners ATHA chapter, 4 of the attendees discovered they had selected the same pattern. This is called Classic Santa, designed by Donna Harkman. So I won't read the whole thing, but it does talk about each person's, Brenda's, Rebecca's, Judy's, Julie's version of Classic Santa by Donna Harkman. So this is one version, and indeed, when you look at this article, all of them are completely different. And they are all gorgeous. You see with this one, like this looks like that faux animal fur that's hooked the pom pom and the band. It looks like the faux animal fur, and it looks like, which hooks up so well, so soft and 3-dimensional. Comes in lots of colors too. It's a yarn, but it's called, I think, faux animal fur. I've used it before. It was really a dream to hook with because it goes very fast too. And I love the white kind of nubby yarn that's around his collar and the sort of front placket of his suit. Really beautiful. Let me hold on one second. Let me see if I have another one of these. Or, wait a minute. No, I'm going to hold on that. So I want to make the point that each one really is different. And so this is yet another one with some of the fur that appears to be hooked in. But this is different right out of the gate than this one, because the ornaments are out of this version of it. This version here is by Rebecca Cook. So this article, similar to the Christmas Eve article, is looking at the 4 versions of Classic Santa from this workshop and how they all differ hugely from one to the next. They are all beautiful and they are as different as they can be. So that is always interesting. Will you bring me some water? No. Can you bring me a tissue, please? I feel like I'm having other problems. I'll probably end a little bit early tonight. I feel fine. It's just, yeah, teetering on the edge. And there is a lot. I have to say there is a lot in this issue. I skimmed over another feature called Branson Americana. Oh, no, this wasn't anything to do with Texas. This is Branson. There was a feature on the Branson Americana hook-in by Dulcie Stewart of Springfield, Missouri. And this took place in July, thank you, of 2024. Big day for the Ozark Mountain Rug Hooking Guild. And so this is another beautiful feature that shows totally different region. It's such good eye candy. The vendors who were there, some of the buddies who showed up to do some hooking and check in. That is one of the things that is so nice about ATHA is sometimes, in within such a small craft, you can feel isolated sometimes. It's great that we can be together here like this. Depending on where you are in the country, sometimes it's hard to find other hookers. It's great to go through a magazine like this and see um, other people getting together and seeing the work that they're doing and the things that they're selling and the day that they had, right? It's very relatable and it's exciting to think about it because hopefully if you don't get a lot of events that are near you in your area, hopefully you will sooner rather than later. Everything is just delicious. Everything that is for sale looks super delicious. Then we come to, okay, so the ATHA Region number 9, back to the convention. Convention Corral. Thanks, y'all. And this is just kind of like an exiting thank you with more photos saying thank you for coming to the convention and announcing, which they've already announced, we already covered this, but just a reminder that thank you all for supporting ATHA Convention 2024. I look forward to seeing you all in 2026 when we meet in Salt Lake City for our next convention, hosted by Region number 10. I really think that the change in language between biennial and convention is because there is always worry, right? I'm going out on a limb here, right? It's when a word like that changes, it catches my attention. I think there's always worry about when the next one will be and if there can be another one in 2 years. And that is why it's important to participate. If you have it in you, sometimes I think people think, I don't have a lot to offer. I don't have a business background. Um, there's so many reasons why you can talk yourself out of stuff like this. But if it appeals to you at all, the idea of working with other people, working on ATHA related projects, it even in your local guild, right? Check with your local guild and be sure that the leadership is in place and they're not looking for more local leadership because a lot of hands make light work, right? And I don't think you can have too many cooks in the kitchen with stuff like this because, when you're planning an event, it's a lot. It's a lot, even for a large group of people. So there's quite a few more pages of photographs, which are a lot of fun to look at because they include the rug show, all of that fun stuff that happened at the convention. I did it again. And then we come to, oh, I do have quite a few more pictures for you though. We come to this feature that's called, and I was looking at some sports pictures in between. So remember, there's a lot of sports features in here, examples of people who submitted for the theme their sport rugs. This one is by Keith Kemmer, and it is called the Old Ball Game. And the pattern is designed by Keith Kemmer. It's available at Woolly Fox. It is 41 by 31. This baseball rug took some time to finish, longer than a single season in baseball lingo. The design came quickly. I find that the best patterns are the ones I don't have to struggle over. But the hooking of it is another story. My initial inspiration for the rug comes from the early Hutchinson rugs. I've always enjoyed their play of words and sly wit. A wonderful book about these rugs is available through Traditions. We've covered that book a few times. I love, love, love the book James and Mercedes Hutchinson. Um, Keith says, I was also inspired by an early rug with the wording warm friendship. The playful use of type in that rug is how I decided to handle the words of the old baseball song, 'cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out. The design came easy once I had the wording along with the picture as the focus of the rug. I see. Yep. I wanted a true folk art design and found that it's easier designing without worry about sense and scale and proportion. That is so true. When you take those aspects, right, literal parts of composition, where's the horizon line, where's the vanishing point, get the proportion right, get the perspective right. If you can remove all of those layers of complication, you're automatically looking at a piece that is much more sort of free form and graphic and less literal. And when you remove those rules, you have two things are going on. in one way, you have more freedom, right? Because you can make things different sizes. You can make things work, make things fit. In this case, the ball field is kind of tipped to a diamond. It is a baseball diamond. But we're seeing it, as the central motif, like a traditional hook drug with a center field, right? There we go. I'm accidentally making all these plays on words. We're seeing the old time costumes. We're seeing the bleachers set up as a box. We're seeing a hit or miss fill. The text is really, really to die for. I love the inner text, because it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, but the old ball game, that like really filigree, skinny font is so fun. It's so fun, and the pitcher like winding up to do whatever kind of sneaky curveball or whatever it is that pitchers do, right, to try to trick you. It's very elaborate, isn't it? It looks like it's going to be a real um, googly, right, in English cricketing terms, and it's just a fantastic, fun, nostalgic piece, a great whimsical look at sports, specifically baseball. It's so much fun. I'm not a sports person, but I have gone to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, and I really enjoyed that so much. In the same way, I'm enjoying looking at this rug. Because there is something about old baseball and the rules and the way that the players looked. Um, Everything was a little bit different, a little bit simpler. um, they weren't quite so athletic looking, and the rules didn't seem to be quite so stringent. It just seemed, um, for me, yeah, at least at the museum. I mean, I wasn't there, but it seemed like part theater, and a lot for fun. And now it's like, I mean, I think like baseball, to watch on TV if it happened to be on, which it never is in this house. But I would watch it. I can at least understand what's happening in baseball, whereas with other sports, it's like there's not a chance. I like the fun of this. I like the humor in this. I think it's an exceptional piece. I don't know Keith Kemmer, but I would love to know him. Seems like he was involved in that bed rugs thing in Pennsylvania this past year that I really wanted to go to. It was just such a long commitment to not be at work and not to be, getting my stuff done. But it seems like everything he works on has one foot in history, and I just love that about his work. It's so striking. This is another great feature, the happy hooker, and she looks really happy, right? Lene Carlson. Story and photos by Lene Carlson of Welsh, Minnesota. This is ATHA region number 7. Robin Stewart. Oh, this might be, let me see, I don't know if this is Robin or if this is Lene. Robin Stewart is a woman who has taken a life journey that brought her to the world of rug hooking. Now, don't get the wrong idea. It's not the type of hooking. Oh, of hooking. It's not the type of hooking you're thinking. She is a rug hooker. Robin grew up in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. After graduating from high school, she moved to Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida, where she met and married her husband. I'm skipping forward. Robin has an interest in crafting that goes back to, so I think this is Robin in the picture, that goes back to her high school days. She sewed clothes in her home economics class, and her mom was a crocheter and embroiderer who encouraged Robin. In the 1980s, while in Florida, Robin got into cross stitch and took up sewing again because of a local business called Barb's Sewing Center. She started making herself clothes and later clothes for her children. Along the way, she became interested in quilting. Back then, there were master quilters such as Eleanor Burns, who produced and sold patterns for quilts. Is Eleanor Burns, is that the quilt in a day? Is she the quilt in the day person? A person could do, a person could do a quilt in a day. There we go. Or block of the month. Robin found that she enjoyed quilting and became very proficient at it. While living in Memphis, she discovered a nearby quilt shop. Like every fabric shop, it had a vortex of fabric that sucked Robin in, and she began making quilts for baby showers and family weddings. She eventually joined several quilting guilds. I'm going to forward again because I want to hear about this rug. Um, Hold on, let me move forward a little bit. Members of these guilds. So she joined several quilting guilds. Members of the guild started encouraging her to make quilts from wool instead of cotton fabrics. About 4 years later, after she retired and returned to Cannon Falls, she saw a Facebook post about a rug hooking group near Casson, Minnesota, and she contacted them, learned more, and she became interested in becoming a hooker. Now, this is not latch hooking where you pull. No, we know that, right? Because we're reading ATHA. Instead, it's the actual way we make. Okay, so this is a little bit about the history of rug hooking. So this is really a an article on Robin, and I think these are rugs that she has hooked. This is a good sort of entry level article because it would strike a beginner quite well too to say, "Ooh, I see how it's done." She looks like a fun person, doesn't she? She looks like such a fun person. This piece, you can tell, the piece that she's holding up, this has got to be either a selvage piece or a ripped piece because let me make this a little bit bigger. Oops, sorry. The the wool strips are incredibly wide by the look of it. And I love this school of hooking. I love this school of hooking because no matter how you pull up that loop, it is going to lay down and mellow into place with the pieces around it. It creates a lot of its own motion, right? Directional hooking aside, it creates its own pattern because the strips are so wide. It really is a stunning, stunning piece. Such a simple piece, but it's so pretty, isn't it? That there's a lot of light coming from the behind of it too, for coming from the back of it like a stained glass window. So a lot of this article seems to be about Robin transferring, Robin cutting stuff on her beeline, all of her hooks. She's got a lot of very nice, expensive stuff, and we know that we can do that with this beautiful, fancy stuff, or with other tools. But yeah, it looks like she's doing a lot of hooking with wool. Let me see what else I put in here. I put one photo in here that is this is it. Sorry, I have to pause here to say this vignette, this drives me crazy, so I have to say this. I just want you to know that these shoes sometimes pop up on our Facebook group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, in other Facebook groups. They should not, right? Some people have ordered these shoes and had no problem, and I think Robin is one of them. Most people have ordered these shoes and they have never come. And the reason I don't allow selling, oh, do you have those? Rita, you have those? A lot of people have complained on the Ribbon Candy Hooking, Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club page that they never came. So my point is be very, very careful if you're, but they should not be selling on my page, but be very, very careful because some of the people who are selling these shoes, it turned out to be a scam. So I'm not saying don't do it. They are very cute, but I'm saying be careful because I have never heard so many complaints about one thing as I did about these shoes on the Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club page. And obviously there's not a thing I can do about it if people order something from the page before I have time to take a post down because there's not supposed to be selling posts. There's not a thing I can do about it. We can't be responsible for people who buy stuff from these posts. So just be careful with anything. Oh, you bought yours a few years ago. It's been quite recent. I'd say it's in the last months that it's like whack-a-mole with these shoes popping up all over the place. And typically with the Facebook groups, what you see first is someone joining and posting a picture of, I have no finished pieces near me, but just a finished piece, right? Just like, and no comment, no title, and it's not their piece. You just see them post a finished piece with no comment at all. Like, oh, I finished this piece today. I hope you like it. This is my first piece. Nothing, just a photo. And then you notice that that photo gets replaced like the next day or the day after with a selling post. So once it's already present on the thread, and the admins of the page have let it go because it looks like a rug hooking post, it changes, right? And this is how it's done. So be very careful, not just with these shoes, but with the shirts and with everything that you see that say I'm a hooker or whatever. Be careful because it is often scammer stuff. Yeah, the scammers have been busy lately, and now I know. I mean, I can say with Rug Hooking and Punch Needle, I think today alone I declined 3 posts that were pictures that had no text because I knew that they weren't real posts. And it took me a while to figure this out, but it's typically someone else's photo, that's something that someone else made, and then that person will write and say, I'm so upset. Somebody, stole my image, and it's like it's really hard to stay on top of this. So if we all work together, we have a better chance of keeping this out of our community. Rita, I'm happy that you got your shoes, though. They are very cute. That's been giving me so much trouble that at least the people who are trying to sell them or not on our club page. So all of the things I'm seeing here, I thought I had. Wait a minute, I thought I had one more. That's it. That Robin did. This is my favorite one that she did. I just love this piece. It doesn't say who the designer is. I just love it. It says my house, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then the alphabet. Um, is this like a Karen? What's her name? Kale? Do you think? Or oh, is it a Not Forgotten Farm? Is it something like that? Does anybody know? I just love the colors. It's such a great piece. It really fits in with the conversation about samplers that we've been having lately. I just love the simplicity of it. It's so much fun. It seems like Robin, looking at her body of work, it seems like she really likes primitive stuff. So it's probably no surprise that I am attracted to the stuff that she makes because I also love primitive stuff. Um, there's so much room for expression in all kinds of rug cooking, but in primitive stuff, the choices you make, with wider strips and just that more graphic style, um, there it's hard. It's harder to make choices, right? If you're not going for realism and you're going for seat of the pants style, it's harder to make choices. With primitive, how are you going to fill the background, or are you going to put ruffles or pleats on that dress? You're going to do anything with the eyes or eyebrows or whiskers, or all of those questions become so interesting with the primitive style because you're working in such a wide cut, right? Interesting. And this is the last feature that I'll cover in this one in any case. This was another really beautiful article that really caught my eye. Let's come up here. And this is from an article called My Promise, ATHA Region Number 3 by Joan Ray, W-R-A-Y, of Newark, Delaware. And Joan wrote, 2 years ago, in November of 2022, my mother, Georgia Prosser, started rug hooking a huge pattern called Lucetta's Tree of Life. This is a Pearl McGowan pattern, Old Sturbridge Village, number 591, sold by Cushing and Company. A significant undertaking indeed, but Mum had been hooking well over 30 years, and I never doubted that she wouldn't finish it. Mum started hooking this rug from the top and completed the first 10 inches or so before becoming ill with double pneumonia. At this time she was 88, soon to be 89. The pneumonia was completely debilitating, requiring extensive hospital stays. She never recovered and passed away in January of 2023. During her months-long stay in the hospital, we frequently discussed Lucetta. She urged me to hook on it while I was staying at her house. As her illness progressed, she made me promise, pinky swear, that I would finish the rug for her. Of course, the last thing on my mind was finishing this gigantic rug. I brought the rug home with me, and it sat neglected for many months, 10 to be exact. I was still grieving my mother's death, and I just couldn't bring myself to hook on her rug. In March of 2023, I noticed on Facebook that Lizanne Miller, owner of Cushing, was holding a class specific to Lucetta's Tree of Life. I commented to Lizanne, "This is giving me motivation to finish my mom's rug." She promptly replied, "Join the group," which I did, and so thankful I did. With Lizanne's guidance, expert planning, color planning, and support, I was able to maintain Mom's original vision for the rug. It was a very cathartic process. As time went on and progress was made, I felt happier knowing my mom would be pleased. It took 8 months to complete, many classes with Lizanne, lots of reverse hooking, patience, and tears. I never removed any of my mom's original loops. Oh. Upon completion, I felt contented and relieved. I fulfilled my promise to my mom and honored her memory with a beautiful rug. It now hangs in our tall foyer, a journey of healing. Love to you, Mom. Oh, that really is so sweet and sad, isn't it? So beautiful. That wasn't much of a pause for a rug like this. I mean, if this piece is 44 and a half by 73 and our mom only got down about 10 inches, that was a lot to finish. That was really a lot to finish. I'm looking at that where that break would have been. It wouldn't. The mom didn't get too far before that terrible chain of events happened with the double pneumonia. So sad. But isn't it great to see a piece? Oops, I'm sorry. A piece finished up like that. And there's a bird on each side, if you remember from the very symmetrical design. There's actually two birds on each side, but this is the larger of the birds on the right, and it really is so gorgeous. Let's look at it one more time. It is so gorgeous. I love these kinds of. It's like Penn Dutch. It's like Penn Dutch meets William Morris. It is a tearjerker, isn't it, Judy? Um, it because it has that. Um, it has that William Morris feel. The layers of patterning are complex and very detailed, but at the same time, it had like the motif itself, right? The stylized flowers, the shapes of the birds. That does have a bit of a Penn Dutch feel. So it's a bit of a hybrid in my mind. Really, very pretty piece, very unusual. The tulips are also the Penn Dutch style of tulips, not the three-pointed tulips, but the ones that do like the sort of rickrack at the top. Really unusual. Very pretty. I like the patterning on the vase itself as well. Really pretty. So let me close this out and Kris Kringle. There's one more pattern at the end, a Kris Kringle pattern. So we end on Kris Kringle by Kelly Borchers. And that is nice for me to see. That makes me happy. They don't need to make me happy. But I do like seeing holiday stuff around the holidays. And I like seeing everybody's holiday around the holidays. It's just such a short time of the year. I have to admit, I love all the red in this too. Isn't that great? There's red, brown, and black. No green in that piece. It's not the green screen. Isn't that very different? That really is lovely. Designed by Bruce Horvath, 24 by 28. That is a stunning piece. Um, that really is a stunning piece. Very nice. Have to admit, I'm listening to the Christmas music full blast. I just thought, like, why transition? Let's just put it on all the time, which I am, and I'm just loving it because it's such a short time. It's, my rule is as soon as Halloween is past, um, it's okay to get going on the Christmas music. And sometimes I try to moderate myself a little bit and say, just pace, wait until Thanksgiving. But I just can't wait till Thanksgiving because there's so many nice songs, and it's just as soon as it's December 26th, I don't want to hear them anymore anyway. So might as well listen to them now. I really enjoy this time of year. And hey, Ted.
Hey, Mom.
You want to say goodnight before I log off?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Hope you don't hear anything else. He's using the bathroom that is right there. I'm logging off anyway, so we are not susceptible to that. I'm sorry I'm not super energized tonight. I feel definitely well enough to do the show. I'm just a little bit droopy. I will be better for Sunday night when I come back on for designing like the 20th century photographer. That class it's really ready to go. It really is great. It is jam-packed with design and composition ideas, with exercises that are absolutely for everybody, and lots of information about some of the best known, some of the little known photographers of the 20th century, but all very, I think, really interesting content, and very usable, very transferable to rug design. So you can find that class probably in the description of this video, also on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel, Facebook, ribboncandyhooking.com, internet, just internet website. And I have the 5 new color sets out: Blue Christmas, Nutcracker Ballet, Winter Birds, which is not a holiday one at all. That's my favorite one. Fezzy, Party at Fezziwig's, and what was the last one? The Ultimate Fruitcake. They're all very different, and they're good for the holidays. Not all of them are Christmas, but it's nice to have out some different color sets. So those are available as individual colors, but also as sets if you're working on pieces. Don't forget about It's All Gravy. I'm going to make sure that video is up as soon as I log off, and I will be hooking on It's All Gravy as a sort of informal class right through to the new year. So I'm going to be working on it right through the holidays. And it's a large piece. It's a lot of fun to work on. If you are a Patreon member, you have maybe seen I sent out a message to alert you of the new of the new book that I'm working on, which is the Rose book. It's called The Rose's Tale. And I did put for Patreon members, thank you Patreon members, some of the roses, not all of the roses. Spoiler alert, not all of the roses, but a bunch of patterns that I would love to see done for the Rose book. And it is based on the March, was it March? I think it was March of this year, 2024, that we had a month of roses. And I introduced a different rose pattern for every day of the month. And it made for some great patterns. And I had a lot more patterns that I sat on with the thought of making this book. We'd like for this book to come out in time for Mother's Day. So tons of time. And if you're a Patreon member, let me know if you're interested in any of those patterns. And let me know if you're interested in none of those sort of gel with you, because I touched up 4 or 5 more today that I had already sketched 4, but I kind of finalized the lines on them today. So doing a lot of sneaky stuff behind the scenes that will bring us to our next book project, and also be thinking about the next issue of Magpie due February 1st. That'll be the spring issue, and the theme is bees. Busy as a bee, whatever that means to you. It might have nothing to do with the insect bees, but anything springtime is great for that issue. You don't have to be spot on with the theme. We have the whole gallery section. If you have a great idea for something that you would like to put into Magpie for spring, whether it's rug hooking or different fiber art, that would be great. We would love to see what you've got. We've been so fortunate so far that, and hopefully continued, that so many people are putting very different content in. And it's making for a very varied publication with a heavy emphasis on rug hooking, but lots of other things to look at, to see, to learn. It's going to be a great issue that you see, the Marshmallow World issue that is coming out imminently. I'm going to work on that tonight too, proof it one more time. So a few products coming at you soon. But in the meantime, have a great weekend. Hopefully I see you on Sunday for class, and otherwise I will be with you on Monday. Coming up this coming week with the holiday, I'll be with you on Monday, and I'll have to see how it plays out. I would like to do one more. You know what I'll probably do is a Sunday show instead of the Friday show, because we'll still be celebrating we have American Thanksgiving this coming Thursday. So I think this week I'll end up doing a Monday show and a Sunday show, so that we can link up again after the busyness of the holiday is done. And if I can see an opportunity for a midweek show, I will definitely let you know. I will pop up if I can. So everybody, have a great weekend. Anything planned for National? Yes, Diane. So for National Rug Cooking Day, we were talking about that at the very beginning. That is, Barbara just told me, what was it, the 4th? I think it was the 4th. Let me finalize it. It is the 4th. I think what we're going to do is do an impromptu hook along together. And the only instruction I'll say is, like, have some backing fabric, have a scrap, and grab some cookie cutters, because we're going to do something that's similar to going back to our folk art museum episodes, looking at the quilt that was done with the cookie cutters, right? And to be honest, the first classes I taught in rug hooking in either 2020 or 2021, the first ones I taught in person, I used cookie cutters. And those are fun classes. I have a stupid amount of cookie cutters here. I think I got rid of some of them. I think I gave some away. I didn't throw them out. But man, we are like lousy with cookie cutters in this house. I keep buying them because they're so charming. But grab your cookie cutters and we'll sit together. I'll give you a more sort of detailed idea about the day, but let's spend at least a few hours on that day together. So yes, put it down on the calendar. We'll be together that day for sure. And if you start scouting around for your cookie cutters, your family cutters, that won't be time badly spent, because I think we will land on that idea and end up using cookie cutters to do something really fun, seasonal, and festive on National Rug Cooking Day, September 4th, coming up quick. Have a happy weekend, everybody. Hope I see you on Sunday night. Otherwise, I will see you back here on Monday. Take care, everybody. If you need me in the meantime, ribbon candy hooking at